How you doing, everybody? Vasu Vaddiparty here for the Make the Money and Run podcast, a little early edition, noon Eastern on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Hope you're having your lunch, enjoying a little podcast. Games to start in 1 hour. The first baseball game will be the Cleveland Indians and the Baltimore Orioles at 1 Eastern. Jorge Lopez and Eli Morgan. Eli Morgan only has one start in the big leagues, a 20.25 ERA. You can't judge him on one start. But the over's looking pretty good. We'll have to see how that goes in our world-famous pick segment. Coming up on this podcast, how did the Philadelphia 76ers blow a lead of 21 points after blowing an 18-point lead earlier? And the Los Angeles Clippers apparently do not need Kawahi Leonard for one game as they come out and win in Utah, 119-111. Four Clippers starters had 93 points amongst them. And the bench only contributed 13 points, but they get an 8-point win as an 8.5-point underdog. The game goes way over at 119-111. 230 was the final score. The total was 221.5. After it didn't go over the other day when I had the over. What's wrong with you guys? Come on. You got to do it on the days I have your picks here. We're here Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 4:15, but that's subject to change. We may have a schedule change here coming up on Monday. We'll have some news for you on the Make the Money and Run podcast. We'll still be here, but there may be a little different format as we get to it. We're powered by Stables Media, and we are here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you miss any of the live segments when we're on, I try and post them as early as possible, especially before games start. Then you can download and subscribe, rate and review on Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, SoundCloud. Anywhere you get your podcast, just look for that logo up in the right-hand corner here for Make the Money and Run. Click that button on wherever you get your podcasts at, on Apple or Android or whatever device you have, and we'll just go from there. All right, so let's get to it here. We said the NBA. Let's start with baseball a little bit. Yesterday, the Mets swept the Cubs. They got a 6-1 victory, but Jacob deGrom, who has filthy numbers. I have this stat yesterday that I put up, and I'm going to find it right now in my section here as I look at it. There it is. Jacob deGrom has 4 earned runs given up. He didn't give up any earned runs yesterday in 3 innings. He did go out after 3 innings. He had a shoulder injury, but he's on fire. And if he could stay healthy, he'd be dominating. He'd be in the MVP conversation for sure. Jacob deGrom of the New York Mets, he is must-see TV when he's pitching every 5th day. 4 earned runs and 6 RBIs driven in as a pitcher. The only pitcher with more RBIs than earned runs in an 11-start span since 1920. 1920, that's 100 years ago, 101 years ago. 10 consecutive starts with 1 earned run or fewer and 5 innings and 5+ innings pitched. Obviously, he didn't go 5 yesterday, so that streak will end tied for second in MLB history behind Bob Gibson. If you're second in anything to Bob Gibson in Major League Baseball history in terms of pitching, then you're doing something good. Bob Gibson, 1968, that was the year they lowered the mound. After that season, he had a 1.12 ERA. It was also the year I was born, so I got all the history lessons about 1968 because I read up on it. 121 opponent's batting average, lowest in first 10 appearances of a season since 1901, and that's a minimum of 50 innings pitched. And his WHIP, which is your walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, is 0.53, lowest over 10-start span since 1900. Are you talking about filthy numbers here, Jacob deGrom? Unbelievable numbers that Jacob deGrom has for the Mets going right now. It's just incredible what he's doing. If he can stay healthy, he'd be the next first Jacob deGrom, and then people will start comparing to him as we go. But let's look at the baseball lines as we get to it. But Jacob deGrom and the Mets, they had a sweep yesterday. San Francisco Giants, 207.5. Kevin Gausman, their ace, he lost to Washington over the weekend in that 7-inning game when they had to schedule the doubleheader. Zach Gallen, the best thing going for the Arizona Diamondbacks right now, but he's still a big underdog. 7.5 the total. Arizona has lost 13 straight. They have lost 13 straight games. They've lost 22 straight on the road. Their last road win was on April 25th when Madison Bumgarner threw his no-hitter. That doesn't count as a no-hitter because it was only a 7-inning game. So that's the game that they're looking at, San Francisco, Arizona. Kevin Gausman, Zach Gallen is the matchup today. That's at 3:45 Eastern. That's the only day game in the National League. In the American League game, we talked about Cleveland and Baltimore. We'll get to that in a second. The New York Mets, who just swept the Cubs, they've won the first 3. It's a 4-game series. Marcus Stroman and Kyle Hendricks will go, not Kendricks. Stroman versus Hendricks. minus 122 for the Mets, 7 the total. Mets don't score a lot of runs, but right now their pitching is really, really good. 4 straight quality starts. In fact, let me change that right now while I got it, but it's Kyle Hendricks. Got to get these things right, Vaddiparty. Let's go. And there we go. Kyle Hendricks. So now let's put that back up. Kyle Hendricks, 122, so you get plus 112. Cubs offense, okay right now, but not doing really well. Atlanta, 182, St. Louis. Atlanta just got swept in a 2-game series by the Boston Red Sox. They gave him 10 runs each day, and Charlie Morton has not had a great year. He's the starter this year. John Gant's pretty consistent for the Cardinals. 9 the total, but I can see a lot of offense in Atlanta tonight. It's also hot down there, too, and that ball flies in Atlanta. Brian Snitker, the manager of the Atlanta Braves, got on Ronald Acuna yesterday for making it out at third base with the tying run at the plate in the 9th inning. That's terrible base running. They've had problems like that all year in Atlanta, struggling right now. The Cardinals have won 3 in a row. They got a 1-0 win yesterday afternoon against Miami. They swept the Miami Marlins. They're still behind Cincinnati, who won yesterday. They swept the Brewers 2-1 in 9 innings to the Cincinnati Reds. Unbelievable that the Cincinnati Reds are coming back to play. They're going to go to San Diego. We'll talk about that in a second as well, too. But 182 for Atlanta. Charlie Morton, John Gant tonight, 9 the total. Cardinals haven't scored a lot of runs lately, but I got a feeling against this Atlanta pitching staff, they're going to score a lot of runs. Milwaukee, 150 at Colorado. Milwaukee just got swept by Cincinnati at home. Colorado just swept San Diego. A lot of sweeps this week in Major League Baseball. You'd think it was a TV ratings week or something like that with all the sweeps going on. But Colorado, San Diego, ha, ha, ha. I'm not laughing at you, San Diego, but you gave me all this BS crap about how good you were going to be, the number 2 team behind the Dodgers and all of baseball, and now you can't even make the playoffs as the season ended today. Colorado, 10, the total there in Colorado. Brandon Woodruff, who's had a good year, German Marquez, pitching for the Colorado Rockies. He's the de facto ace because Colorado not having a good year. But they did jump off a sweep with San Diego. I did mention that. And then, of course, the last National League game, San Diego, $1.72 versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati red hot right now. They're 3 games back in the National League Central. Make it 2 games back as the Cubs lost and the Brewers lost as well, too. Milwaukee and Chicago tied for first in the National League Central. Joe Musgrove and Wade Miley going for the Cincinnati Reds, San Diego. Some of the notes in the American League: Cleveland Indians are taking on the Baltimore Orioles this afternoon, actually in about 52 minutes, so 10 o'clock here on the West Coast, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. So enjoy your lunch hour, turn on a little baseball, MLB Network. Eli Morgan, we told you about him, 20.25 ERA. Jorge Lopez, probably one of the better pitchers. He's 2-7. Not great. The Baltimore Orioles have lost 22 straight road games. That ties a record. They've lost 7 in a row, and at one point they had a 13-game losing streak. So if you think you're going bad, Baltimore, all you got to do is look at the National League West and look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, because they've lost 13 in a row, and it doesn't get any better with the San Francisco Giants today and their ace, Kevin Gausman, going against them. 121 for Cleveland, favored, 9.5. Eli Morgan had 1 bad start against the Blue Jays. Terry Francona likes Eli Morgan as a guy that's going to be have a lot of potential coming through the system, and this is his second shot at it against Baltimore. Probably a good start. 9.5 the total there. The Yankees have come back 3 times against the Blue Jays this week. They're a 107 favorite. They're looking for a 4-game sweep after Toronto just split with Boston in Fenway. 107. 10.5 the total. Michael King, who's pitched really well for the Yankees since being called up, against TJ Zoik. Let's say his name again, TJ Zoik. Anybody old enough to remember Scooby-Doo? That's what Shaggy used to say to Scooby-Doo all the time, Zoik. Hopefully that's how I'm pronouncing his name right. I didn't look it up, but it's just funnier this way. And TJ Zoik, the left-hander, he's been pitching really not that well, so he probably is saying Zoiks a lot after watching the ball go out of the stadium. So Michael King, TJ Zoik in Buffalo. They have yet to get back to Toronto. So the Yankees 107, 10.5 with King and Zoik. The Houston Astros have been playing really well. Their bats are on fire right now. They've got the Chicago White Sox, who just took 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay. Jose Urquidy will go up against Dylan Cease, who's had a good year. Chicago had a walk-off winner against the Rays yesterday. Took 2 out of 3 from the Rays. They have the best record in Major League Baseball right now, do my Chicago White Sox. Why do I say my Chicago White Sox? I was born on the south side of Chicago. And yes, you can have a National League team and you can have an American League team. I think it's well documented that I'm a Dodgers fan in the National League. And overall, if I had to choose a team over every other team, it would be the Dodgers first and foremost, and then everybody else tied for second or tied for last, depending on your perspective. Jose Urquidy, Dylan Cease for the White Sox, best record in baseball right now. Shohei Ohtani, did you see him in Oakland this week? Holy cow, he had a 440-foot home run yesterday. He's got 19 home runs now, leading the American League in home runs. Actually, he's not. Vladimir Guerrero is, because Vladimir Guerrero's got the triple crown candidacy. But Shohei Ohtani, 19 home runs, hitting about 270, so the average not there. What's he going to do for an encore? He's going to pitch tonight against the Detroit Tigers. He's going up against Matt Manning, making his 2021 debut. Matt Manning with a couple other ball clubs. Detroit calls him up to pitch. They're not having a very good year. They just got swept by the Kansas City Royals this week in Kansas City. So Detroit going into Anaheim to take on the LA Angels. LA just got swept by Oakland. More sweeps. Unbelievable. More sweeps. So Ohtani and Manning tonight in Anaheim. That's a late game. That'll be on YouTube. So if you can get on a computer, that's the only way you're going to see it on YouTube. We'll talk about this Phillies-Giants series tomorrow with Charlie and Casey. By the way, they're off. Charlie off today. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Casey will be back with us tomorrow and Monday. And Monday we'll announce some changes on the Make the Money and Run podcast going forward from Monday, June. Let's see if today's the 17th, and that would be the 21st. For Monday, June 21st, we'll have the updates on the show as well, maybe some time changes as well too. Thanks to David Andrews. David Andrews, big supporter of Stables Media. He's always on with us. We appreciate it, David. Thanks very much for the follow and the like on Facebook. Pass it on to everybody. You can get us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. If you miss any of the live broadcasts, including the unsponsored worldwide famous picks that we have at the end of the show, the last 10 minutes. We're unsponsored, but they're world famous because when we're wrong, we hear about it. When we're right, we don't hear about it. So that's why they're famous. Tampa Bay, back to the American League, 169, road favorite. They just lost 2 out of 3 of the White Sox. Rich Hill has had a pretty good year. He's only 70 years old, but he's pitching well for the Tampa Bay Rays. 9.5 the total. Justice Dunn, the young right-hander for Seattle, going. They lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota this week. Yesterday, they got beat 7-2 late night. They're waiting for Tampa Bay to come in tonight for a 4-game series against the Rays. The Rays have a shot to increase their American League East lead over the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Yankees have moved ahead of Toronto, now in 3rd place. All right, so that's the baseball that we got for today. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the basketball in 30 seconds. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, June 17th. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Casey Freelove on assignment, Charlie O on assignment. Back in 30 with more of the Make the Money and Run podcast. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty here. Casey Freelove, Charlie O on assignment. Thursday, June 17th. A little early today, noon Eastern. We started for the baseball game I've got to attend to, got to get to in San Francisco. 3:45 the ball game. So after this show, I'll be taking off up the coast to San Francisco. It's a beautiful drive. If you haven't been to California, taking Highway 1 from the Santa Cruz area all the way up to San Francisco. It's a great drive, and it's a great way to kind of relax and before you get to the ballpark. And for me, it's work. I'm not complaining, but that's the way it is. We just went through all the baseball, National League, American League. We talked about the Jacob deGrom injury, terrible injury for Jacob deGrom. All the stats that we just gave you at the beginning, and he only lasted 3 innings with another shoulder issue. Hopefully he gets better, and hopefully he can show up when he needs to show up. All right, let's move on to the NBA here a little bit. How about those Los Angeles Clippers? Everybody's giving them a bad time saying they're a one-man show. Kawhi Leonard out for Game 5, maybe out for Game 6. And the fact they won yesterday on the road in Utah and Salt Lake City, 8.5-point underdog. They win by 8, 119-111. They take a 3-2 series lead. Game 6 will be Friday night. There'll be the late game, I think probably 9:30 or 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock on the West Coast. 93 points scored by the starters, by 4 starters in Kawhi Leonard's absence. Paul George had a triple-double. I'm looking it up right now. 37 points, 16 rebounds. No, not a triple-double. 16 rebounds, 5 assists, 13 on the defensive end, plus 9. Terrence Mann, 13 points, usually a bench player. Marcus Morris Sr., 25 points. He's a bench guy. Reggie Jackson, 22 points as well, too. He was 3 of 8 from the three-pointers. The Clippers were 16 of 40, 40% from three-pointers, 51% overall from the field. The Utah Jazz didn't get anything going, 45% from the field, 36 of 80, 20 of 54, 54 three-point shots. Boy, the NBA has changed. 54 three-point shots. That's more than half of the total field goal attempts, and missed 8 free throws. They gave up, they only got 36 rebounds to the Clippers 39, and they had 15 assists. They turned the ball over too much, usually what happens when you lose at home, 13 turnovers to the Clippers 10. So the final 119-111. Clippers go in. All the talk about Kawahi Leonard not being there obviously didn't affect the Clippers, and so they're one game away from going to the Western Conference Finals to take on the Phoenix Suns. No word on the Chris Paul situation, by the way, yet. He's in COVID protocol. Could be held out for 10 days unless he's been vaccinated. They're going to examine him for Saturday and see if he'll be ready to go, because the Western Conference Finals will start on Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, on Tuesday. They'll start on Tuesday in Phoenix. Phoenix, the number 2 seed. Unless Utah wins, then they'll host because they're the number 1 seed. Clippers are the 4 seed, and they would go to Phoenix if they can get the win on Friday night. All right, moving on to the East here. What is going on with the Philadelphia 76ers? This is their second double-digit lead that they've lost. In fact, the win probability with 2:10 left in the quarter for the Hawks was 0.3%. I'm watching it on TV right now. It's coming up. Largest halftime comeback in NBA postseason history by the Hawks. Second team in postseason history to come back from a 13-point deficit twice in one series. Philadelphia blows a 21-point lead at home. They blew an 18-point lead on the road. They lose 109-106. 7.5-point favorite for Philadelphia. The over does not come anywhere close. It was 224.5, 109-106 at home, 215 the total. Trae Young had 39. Joel Embiid, 37 points. I mean, he does everything for that team. And Seth Curry had 36. That's 73 of your 106 points amongst the other 13 players. Got to get more production. They didn't do it. They're down 3-2. They got to go back to Atlanta. They better come out and play. In fact, it's really funny to me as we get to the lines here. We got the Milwaukee-Brooklyn game to talk about, but Philadelphia is still a favorite at -3, 221.5 tomorrow night. Utah favorite. They don't have their guys either. They don't have Mike Conley, but the bookmakers think that Utah, without Kawahi Leonard, still a favorite on the road at LA to take on the Clippers, 219.5. That's a low total. And if the Clippers come out and play like they did, 93 points amongst those 4 starters, 99 points overall between the 5 starters for the Clippers. They didn't get very much bench production. Atlanta got a lot of bench production. Lou Williams, Gallinari, they had 31 points off the bench, and that neutralized some of the starting players that didn't score. Clint Capella playing his great defense as usual. It didn't really stop Embid, but he got the rebounds and he got the block shots necessary to stop everybody else. It reminds me of Michael Jordan in the days of Jordan. Let Jordan have his, but stop the other 4, and that's what they did. 76ers blow a 26. Oh, it got up to 26 points. I saw 21. 26-point lead game. One game after blowing an 18-point lead. 4:30 on the West Coast tomorrow night, 7:30 on ESPN, 10 o'clock for Utah and the Clippers as well. All right, the NBA, Charlie and Casey, we'll talk about it a little bit. How about the Montreal Canadiens real quick? We'll have the NHL stuff to talk about it. Tampa Bay and the Islanders play tonight. That series even at 1 after the Islanders surprised them in Game 1. Tampa Bay, a road favorite at 130 with the total being at 5 on the island in New York. Tampa Bay looking to go up 2-1. So that series is there. How about the Montreal Canadiens? An upset in Vegas. They had to get the travel permission from the Canadian government to go. And what do? You might as well win if you get the travel permission. So they win Game 2, 3-2 over the Las Vegas Golden Knights. That series even at 1. Game 3 will be Friday night. Will be tomorrow night. They're going every other day as the Islanders and Tampa go today. So Game 3 tomorrow night. Back in Montreal. Vegas got to get better goaltending, better shot making, I guess is the best way to see it, because you can't lose to Montreal, the last team to get in the Canadian division, and they go out and beat them. Carey Price had a great game, only allowed 2 goals for the Montreal Canadiens. All right, little U.S. Open to talk about. We'll get to that in 30 seconds. U.S. Open started today. I'll give you a couple picks, what I got going, and I'll give you some of the odds if you're looking at it for your sports book or you're in Nevada or anywhere that you can bet legally or illegally, I guess. You have some odds for pro golfing and the futures for the U.S. Open. It's our country's biggest golf tournament every year, Father's Day weekend. It's a big tournament for me as well, not having my dad around, and I know Casey feels the same way. So Sunday's always a big day to watch the 4th round of the U.S. Open. Back in 30 seconds, we'll talk a lot of golf. Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, their rivalry. It's not Yankees, Red Sox, or Dodgers, Giants, but it is a rivalry, and it's a man-made rivalry, and it's good for TV, and I'm sure NBC will love it this weekend. Back in 30, I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, June 7th. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Apparently, the peanut gallery is saying that they didn't know I could talk this much. So, for those of you that have watched this for 2 years, know that that part doesn't come too bad for Charlie, Casey, and I. Vasu Vaddiparty here, Thursday, June 17th, an early edition of the Make the Money and Run podcast. Thanks to you to everybody on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you miss any of the podcasts, including the worldwide famous unsponsored pick segment, we're waiting for somebody to come sponsor us, so that's why I keep promoting it. David Andrews, you must know some people down there to sponsor us, the worldwide unsponsored picks. We'll get to my picks in a second. Casey and Charlie don't have picks today, but I'll get to that in a second. How about the U.S. Open? Let me go to this a little bit as I go to the screen here. I'm going to go to the U.S. Open screen, so you guys get to look at my thinking face while I hit the screen here. The U.S. Open opens up today. A few players have already gone out on the course, don't have the leaderboard yet. But let me get to the futures play here as we get to the golfers that are going to be on display. It's in Torrey Pines in San Diego, long golf course. So some of the big hitters are going to be aided by the fact that it's a long golf course versus some of the guys that don't hit the ball as well. But the biggest story right now is Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka. They're having a little spat amongst themselves right now. Apparently, Bryson DeChambeau walked behind Koepka in an interview on purpose with spikes on, made a little bit of noise. Koepka kind of rolled his eyes, and so they've gone back and forth. If they wanted ratings this weekend, they would have paired them together. That would have been the greatest TV ever to see Koepka and DeChambeau in the same pairing group, but I think that would have been bad for golf to put that in there. So Bryson DeChambeau, my pick, by the way, plus 1,800. So if you lay $100, you win 1,800 back. I have a couple of dollars on Bryson DeChambeau to win the tournament this weekend. He goes off at 2 o'clock today in San Diego. Torrey Pines Golf Course, if you've never seen it, never been there, it's a beautiful golf course. It's just on the northern county of San Diego, about 10 miles from the beach, Phil Mickelson's home course. By the way, the sports books have talked about Phil Mickelson. If he wins this tournament, they're talking about millions that the sports book's going to lose. He is plus 6,000. The PGA winner, the first-time winner at the well, not the first-time winner, but the senior, first 50-year-old to win at the PGA tournament is plus 6,000. So for every $100 you put up there, you get $6,000 back. Sportsbooks are very worried about that as well in case he gets hot on his home course. Some of the other players here, Dustin Johnson plus 1,600, Jon Rahm plus 900. He's the favorite as I scroll down here. Plus 900 is Jon Rahm. Some plus 15,000s here for Stuart Sink, Brian Hanman plus 12,500. Yep, 900 is the lowest odds for Jon Rahm. Rory McIlroy plus 2,000. DeChambeau, I have at plus 1,800. Brooks Koepka, a colleague of mine like Xander Schauffele at plus 1,600. Hideki Matsuyama, the Masters winner, plus 4,000 in this tournament. And Colin Morikawa, who's had a good year out of Cal Berkeley in my area up here, saw his odds here somewhere. He might have already started, so he may not be available anymore. Justin Rose, plus 6,000. He's having a terrible time putt. Others call him Morikawa. Colin Morikawa out of the University of Cal, plus 2,200. So those are some of the odds. You may want to get in it. Late starts because it's on the West Coast, so you still have a shot to get in it. And if you like to go head-to-head with some of these golfers as well, too, you can find Dustin Johnson against DeChambeau, etc. All the head-to-head matchups for the entire tournament or for round one today. Just get on your sportsbook website, or if you're in Nevada or New Jersey or anywhere they're legal sportsbook, you can find a sheet there that'll have the futures odds for golf. All right, last 5 minutes of the show here. As we get to it, I keep saying it's unsponsored. Somebody step up there. Our worldwide famous pick segment. Vasu Vaddiparty here for the Make the Money and Run podcast. Time for the pick segments, what you want to know. That way, in case we're wrong, I hear more from you. But when we're right, you still should get on us. By the way, you can get us on any Facebook page. We all have individual Facebook pages. We have a Make Money and Run Facebook page as well, too. Instagram. You can email us at mtmarpodcast@gmail.com and also on Twitter at mtmarpodcast. Please hit us up anywhere you can on that. Hey, one note, by the way, the Euro League going, the Euro Cup going right now. Christian Eriksen, I'm sure you heard the story about Christian Eriksen having cardiac arrest on the pitch last Saturday. He was out for 10 minutes. Well, they've done today is Denmark's first game back since that day, and they had a 10-minute moment of silence, 10-minute celebration for him. Apparently, they had to restart his heart right there on the field. He's doing okay. He's in stable condition, but it really affected the Denmark team. They did finish that game, but you could tell there were mistakes being made, and obviously more important things were going on with Christian Eriksen. So hopefully he's feeling better. Good luck to Denmark as far as the EuroLeague tournament goes. Let's get some notes on that. Anybody have any notes on that? Anybody like anybody on that as far as future odds or whatever the EuroLeague 4 groupings? There's a friend of mine down here in the Santa Cruz area, a big soccer guy, and they have it on every morning from 6 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon in France, where they're playing the EuroLeague Cup, the Euro Cup, I guess it's called Euro Cup 2020 was what it was, but it got moved back to 2021. All right, as I said, world famous unsponsored pick segment, time to come up. In the NBA, Brooklyn, we didn't talk about Brooklyn. They have a 3-2 lead. They can close out tonight in Milwaukee. Milwaukee, a 5.5-point favorite, 220. How about Kevin Durant the other day? I know James Harden didn't have a great game, but he was a decoy. He may be available for game 6. He may not be as effective with that hamstring, but he's out there and he's a threat. And he is the best passer among the big 3 that they have between Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. So James Harden out there at least dishing the ball can set up Durant. Durant with a triple-double, 49 points, 18 rebounds, 10 assists in the 18-point comeback against Milwaukee in Game 4 on, Thursday, on Tuesday night. 5.5-point underdog. It's going to be a close game. I can see Brooklyn winning. Even if Milwaukee gets a big lead, I'm very confident that the Brooklyn Nets can come back and score. They can cover 5.5. And hopefully if they cover 5.5, everybody's a winner, and we get a Game 7 on Saturday night, which are unbelievable in sports. So Brooklyn plus 5.5 tonight in the NBA. In Major League Baseball, how can you not go against the Arizona Diamondbacks? Kevin Gausman, probably an all-star, maybe the all-star starting pitcher, 7-1 with an ERA around 2. He did lose his first start to Washington last Saturday, but he's minus 200. Usually that's a little high. But the Arizona Diamondbacks on a 13-game losing streak. God bless Steve Berthiaume. God bless Tom Candiotti. God bless Greg Schulte. They're the announcers for the team, and they're the ones who have to watch this, especially the game-winning grand slam from Yastrzemski the other night when they had a 7-0 lead. Last night they got blown out early. They got 2 runs to open the game, and then the Giants came back on a Posey home run, 3-2. Ended up being 13-7. Bats are there. Offense is there. They've got Major League pitching. But right now, they don't have any. Right now, they don't Major League players, but they don't have any pitching right now, especially in the bullpen. Zach Gallen, their best pitcher right now, he's going up against Kevin Gausman. So that may be your only saving grace if you want to take Arizona plus 185 or plus 180, depending on what you want. Talked about St. Louis and Atlanta. Atlanta lost 2 straight to Boston. Both games 10-7. St. Louis not scoring a lot of runs lately. They're in 4th place behind the Cubs and the Brewers, who are tied for first in the division. The Reds are ahead of them. This is going to be an over game. Over 9, Charlie Morton's not had a great year. John Gant's been pretty consistent, but he has a tendency to give up runs. And the way that Atlanta's swinging the bats right now, 9 seems to be pretty cheap. Charlie Morton has given up his share of runs. St. Louis, Atlanta, over 9. Cleveland, starting in about a half an hour. Cleveland, over 9.5. Eli Morgan, his 20.25 ERA was from his only start against Toronto a few weeks back. Jorge Lopez, 2-7 with an ERA of 6.9. The Orioles have lost 7 straight, 22 straight on the road. You would think you'd go with Cleveland, but I'm not sold on Eli Morgan yet. Terry Francona is, but let him win a few games. Shohei Ohtani, we saw him hit the 430-foot home run yesterday. He's coming back on the mound against Detroit, minus 195. Angels lost 3 in a row to Oakland after winning 6 straight. They get back in the win column tonight against the Tigers. And then the Tampa Bay Rays, second-best record in the American League now behind the White Sox after losing 2 out of 3 of the White Sox. But they're going to Seattle, who struggled. They lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota. Seattle in 4th place now in the American League West behind the Angels, the Astros, and the Oakland A's. So those are our picks. Those are my picks for today on Thursday, June 17th. Don't forget, you can catch us tomorrow, 4:15 Eastern, 1:15 Pacific. Make the money and run a full house. Vasu Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove, Charlie O with you as well. We'll see you then. We'll see you then tomorrow at 4:15, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Download, subscribe, rate and review, Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we'd love to hear from you anytime, anywhere. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the games, And as always, good luck.